seriously. His life will never be the one that he dreamed about and he worked so hard to achieve. That is a steep price to pay for 20 minutes of action out of his 20 plus years of life. This is an excerpt from Dan Turner, written to Judge Aaron Persky about his son's sentencing. You may recognize Dan Turner's son as Brock Turner, or better yet, the Stanford rapist. Now, Brock Turner was convicted of 3 felony counts of sexual assault for raping an unconscious co-ed behind a dumpster. The maximum sentence that Brock could have received for these crimes was 14 years in prison. In fact, prosecutors in this case recommended 6 years minimum in prison. Aaron Pensky decided to sentence Brock to 6 months in a county jail and 3 years probation. Brock only served 3 months out of those 6 months. So how common is sexual assault? Well, according to the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network, every 92 seconds, someone in America is sexually assaulted. And every 9 minutes, a child is sexually assaulted. That means that every minute and a half, there's one victim of sexual assault. So by the time this speech is over, there'll be 3 to 5 victims of sexual assault. So what about the perpetrators? Well, out of 1,000 reported sexual assaults, only 5 are convicted. This is compared to 22 convictions out of 1,000 for robberies and 42 out of 1,000 for assault and battery with no sexual violence. Based on these statistics alone, I firmly believe that there needs to be a change in how sexual assault is viewed and treated, and a change in the light sentences that perpetrators seem to get. We need to see sexual assault for what it is, traumatizing and life-changing for the victim, and there needs to be a push for harsher sentences for perpetrators. Now, I'm sure that many would argue against this. Why change, right? Well, one argument could be made that if we change our views on sexual assault and push for those harsher sentences, many more women will cry false rape. However, according to the Connecticut Alliance to End Sexual Violence, only 2% of reported rapes are false. 2%. The second most popular argument is that there needs to be leniency for first-time offenders. We should not make them register as sexual offenders, and we should not send them to prison. Because if we send them to prison, there's a good chance that they'll come out and commit other types of crime, such as robberies or assaults without sexual violence, or that they themselves may become victims of sexual assault in prison. I call that irony. Now, forcing them to register as a sex offender, according to Emily Horowitz, a professor of sociology and criminal justice at the St. Francis College in Brooklyn, New York, is traumatizing for them. It makes it impossible for them to reintegrate into society. It's like social banishment, social death. Well, I decided to run an experiment and to see if that was true. How many of you guys know if there's any sexual perpetrators in your area? Raise your hand if you know of any sex offenders in your area. Well, that's what I thought. So I decided to do this experiment and see. And for you guys, this is your house. There are 8 registered sex offenders in your little area here. And this is a 5-mile radius of your house. All of these dots that you see are registered sex offenders. For you living in Delta, there's your house. There are 9 within that radius, and that's a 5-mile radius of your house. And for me, in Craig, there are 13 by where I live. And that means that grand total, there's 17 in Cedar Ridge in a 5-mile radius of your house, 36 in Delta within a 5-mile radius of your house, and 33 in a 5-mile radius of my house. That means that there are 86 perpetrators total. And many of these are repeat offenders and people that are convicted of felony sexual assaults. And of these 86 on the list, 2/3 targeted children as their victims. That being said, we need to change this. This is not okay. And how do we do that? Well, first, we need to understand how these victims are affected and impacted. This is how we're going to start fixing this problem. According to ourresilience.org, victims of sexual assault, men, women, children, go through many things, such as nightmares, flashbacks, depression, difficulty concentrating on small tasks, post-traumatic stress disorder, guilt, shame, and self-blame, embarrassment, anger, numbness, confusion, shock, disbelief, denial. This didn't happen to me. It couldn't happen to me. There's changes in their eating and sleeping patterns. There's an increased startle response. There's concerns about their physical safety. And there's very real concerns about pregnancy or contracting an STI or an HIV. Imagine a world where rape culture or the glorification and normalization of sexual violence is non-existent. It's not the norm anymore. Imagine that, you could go out and leave your house and there won't be a fear of getting raped, that a victim could come forward and not be told she was asking for it or he's a liar, because men cannot be raped. Imagine that you are sexually assaulted and that you have the support that you need to heal and to prosecute your assaulter. Or, don't change, don't speak out. Girls will continue to go to school and be called whores and sluts. Women will continue to be called catcalled and, be told that what they wear is their problem because boys will be boys. Men will continue to have their assaults devalued and, told men can't get raped, and maybe another child will feel unsafe at home. We have to take action. We must work together to create change. I'm going to share something that I would like everybody to Google at the end of my speech. It's change.org, make sexually explicit text to a minor illegal in Colorado. And I'm asking everybody to sign this petition. This is something that happened in the town that I was in. A trusted person, a teacher, a coach at the high school, began a sexual relationship with a young girl when she was just 13 years old and a freshman. He was just recently acquitted because there was no images in the graphic sex that he was sending her. In Colorado right now, it is not illegal to sext a minor as long as you are not sending pictures or receiving pictures of their body or sending those pictures of your body. Will you help me take a step in changing this law and to help out victims of sexual assault?